All right, so as we look at this, this is going to be our introduction to organic objects. And I need you guys to loosen up a little bit. We've done boxes, we've done cylinders, things like that. Now it's time to start to think about things that are a little more organic. And it's good to have any object that you have, kind of the apple. I asked everyone to have an apple because it's basically round but a little different. And then I asked everybody to have a different type of object, fruit or bread. I do have bread, which is kind of interesting. So you want to have them overlapping like you see here. And I'll zoom in on that so you can see that. You want to have it so that one is in front of the other just a little bit, okay? We're going to start with the apple. Whether it's in the front or the back, it doesn't matter because you guys have one setup for each. And you're just going to draw it as a fairly largish object. Give yourself room on the side that has your shadow. So I'm going to draw the apple kind of biggish. And again, I'm just doing it really loose. You guys can start with this if you want. Look at your apple, look at the shape of it, and just keep it super loose in the beginning. All right, and then I want you guys to look at the apple where the stem is. Now mine's kind of caved in a little, which is fine. But notice the stem. You know with an apple that the stem is at the top, but it's really not when you're looking at it. It's in this field right here. So I want you guys to look at that and see what that looks like on your apple. And some may have a stem that comes up like this, but you'll see some sort of curvature, some sort of indication that the apple has kind of a stem, but it's in the field because remember, we're looking towards the top of it, right? So everybody draw just a little quick sketch on where that might be. And then I want you guys to start to look at the outside edge of the apple. Once you have that stem in place, you can start to look at, you know, how the outside shape of that apple. These are pretty good fake fruits, so they're not perfectly round, which is what we want to capture. Okay, so we've got a kind of a loose round shape, right? But the outside edge, when I really look at it, has kind of lumps and bumps. And I want you to look at that and see how it kind of comes across a little straighter over here. For a quick second, I'm going to move this. Kind of comes over here like this. And that's really the outside edge of my apple. Okay? Now before I get going too far, I'm going to try to do the pear. Now the pear may be right next to the apple, just side by side like this, but it may also be a little bit different where it kind of sits. Mine sits a little more forward and it overlaps the apple, and I have a pear. So I'm going to do it like this because the front of it is a little closer to me than the apple. And I'm just going to do the bottom of the pear, and then I'm going to do the top of the pear. Almost like a little snowman. Now, if you have like the little piece of bread, it may be a shape that is a little bit more like this with an extra piece around it. It may be something like that. If you have a lemon, you're going to have almost like the same shape as the bread, but you're going to have this extra triangle that's on the end for the lemon. I'm trying to think, what else do you guys have? I think that's pretty much it. Okay, so those are the other shapes that you might be looking at. And with these, once I get that pear in place and it looks like proportionally right, small area to big area, I'm going to start to draw the outside edge. And again, looking at the different nuances, the little lumps, like there's a little corner here almost, and then it comes up. It's very lumpy right here. and then it comes up more straight here, like this. A little bit of straight there. Now with the stem of the pear, if you have a pear, it is going to be closer to the top, but you will see some portion of that. So draw that where you see it. So for me, it's right about here, and then it comes out from there. Okay? And you can, at this point, if you've got an eraser, kind of get rid of some of these extra lines. I'm going to get rid of this extra line because this one's in front of the other. And maybe just a little more here. Okay. All right, and now I'm going to start to look at where I have lights and darks. Again, I asked you guys to keep those lights a little farther away. That gives you a stronger shadow across your objects. So what I'm noticing for the apple is I have a really strong shadow right here. Just going to kind of sketch those in just a little bit. Strong shadow right here, and I'm keeping it kind of loose. It's definitely more shaded on this side. I have a little back highlight here, but just a little bit of shading. I have a really strong shine right here and a strong shine right here. A little bit of a shadow here. And it's kind of medium toned around these other places. I'm going to do the same thing with the pear. Look at where I have more shadow. This is all in shadow. It does it slightly in stripes, something like that. This is all lighter over here. I have a little bit of modeling in here. And then the last thing I'm going to draw is my actual shadow that comes off the object. Like so. So that's kind of our loose sketch. That's where you want to start off. I'm going to walk around and see how you do it. Once we get to this point and we're, we have it all roughed in the way we want to look at it, you guys want to start to add some shading and some contour lines. So we've done a little bit of the contour line, and you can use your pencil eraser or another eraser and tighten up your lines just a little bit so your outside line is exactly the way you want it. So you don't necessarily have to make it darker. That's one thing you want to. Line quality is an important aspect, an element of art. So line quality speaks to how the line acts, what it's doing. Is it a heavy line? Is it a thick line? Is it a light line? Is it a very soft line? Is it a blurry line? So there's a lot of ways of describing an object using line, and that's why I want you to just kind of refine your lines throughout. Some lines you're going to want stronger, particularly the lines that are along the bottom side of the object. Those should be a little bit darker and a little bit thicker. It helps ground the object. It's a nice way, a nice trick in drawing to really show the shape, but also kind of put that object firmly on the ground. Really look where that shadow comes in on the bottom and how to draw that. Again, using the eraser to kind of push and pull that line. Drawing is like push and pull. It's not, an eraser is not about mistakes, an eraser is about refining your line. It's as much of a mark making tool as any pencil. That's a little too lumpy. Go. I'm just getting a really nice outline, an outline you're really confident about. Get the left side of this pear. And make sure to really look at your object. Don't stop looking at the object. That's part of what observation is. You're referencing back constantly. Like, am I capturing this the way I'm really seeing it? Once you get the outline pretty much where you want it, I'd like you guys to look at any lines on the interior space that describe the object as well. So are there any creases? Are there any distinct shadow lines? Like along the top, I have a little bit of a line that comes through here. And then the shadow line here is not a hard line, but it's fairly distinct. So I want to kind of keep that in there. And then I have another little line right here behind the stem. Along this, I don't have as much of a line because I don't have a stem on this particular apple, but that's okay. All right. Now I'm going to start to build in shading. I'm going to work this way to this way because I'm right-handed. So you might want to do the same if you're right-handed or the opposite if you're left-handed. The reason I say that is because as I build in shading, if I did it the other way, which I think kind of naturally you want to do that, then you're going to smudge your way through your drawing. I did that last time and it just was a mess. And if you have your lighting in that side, it kind of helps. So I'm really shaded over here, and so I'm going to start to build in my shading. There's a few ways you can do this, and it's considered hatching. And you can do cross hatching, contour hatching, or straight hatching. Cross hatching is where you crisscross lines, essentially. And again, I'll bring in my scribble sheet here. So cross hatching is like this. And then to make it darker, and I'm just doing it kind of big and bold so you guys can see it, right? Regular hatching is just one direction. And contour hatching is where you're hatching in the direction or to reflect the outside edge or shape of the object. So that's contour hatching. So you guys can use whatever one that works, and makes the most sense. I'm doing a little kind of contour hatching, and I'm going to do a little blending in it too. So I'm kind of showing the shape of this pear through my hatching. For this point, it's good to use your pencil kind of on the kind of flat side like this. I might sharpen it just a little more. So that you get a little bit more of the flat surface, the side surface of the lead. It'll give you a bigger mark and help you kind of cover more ground, we'll say. As you look at this, look to see, are there any, areas that are even darker? Like it's a little darker right along here, so I'm going to really make sure I build that up. And I want to kind of start to get rid of these outlines. So those are soft. So if you have an outline, you can erase it a little bit or soften it. And I'm going to bring my shadow right down here. This is the darkest part of my shadow. Now I could come in and crosshatch, and I might just a little right through here because it's really dark right through here. A little crosshatching. Right through here. And that's one of my darkest areas of the pear. And it comes into this space just a little. And then this band right through here is kind of a medium gray. So I'm going to again start hatching through there. So as I shade this, guys, I'm coming over to the right side of the pear. This is my brightest side, but it's not white. Nobody has an egg in front of them. Although some of you guys have the buns, which do have some white. So you want to look where you have, you know, the highlights, the shine. And I have a few right along here, and those are going to be the parts that remain white, and everything else will be a gray. So I want you to work towards dark to light and have your highlights, but there shouldn't be any part of the major part of the pear that is white. So that might mean making this area that's kind of the medium gray darker. It might mean making the area that's the intense shadow. A little darker. But there should be tone throughout. And a pear has kind of lumpity sides, so it works well for this kind of hatching in different directions. And I'm a little darker along the top here through where the stem is. All right. Once you start to get some of that shading in, we can start to refine it just a little bit using a blending stump. You don't want to go too crazy with a blending stump. You want to go kind of easy with it. You could just smear the whole thing in and then it would be really blendy, which sometimes looks good. But I think it's good to kind of look at where you really have some darker areas and use it almost like a texturing tool. Because notice what happens when I start to use this blending stump. It makes it a little darker, right? Because you're essentially smearing out the lead of the pencil. So, really pay attention to how that affects the drawing. This is a looser style of drawing, so there's going to be nuance to it. You're not creating a photograph, you're making a drawing. So it's kind of the artist's hand that makes it an interesting drawing. And you can do the same thing through some of the softer shaded areas. And sometimes that helps areas that need just a little bit of blending, but not too much. Kind of bring some areas together so it doesn't look too pencil-y. And the last trick on this is if you feel like, oh geez, I went too far. This is too dark. This is kind of too dark for my pear. So what I'm going to do is use my eraser again, just like a pencil, And I'm just going to almost cross-hatch with the eraser to soften that up a little and pull up a little of that pencil lead so that it's a little bit more like what I'm actually seeing. And I can come in here do a little bit there, come back with my blending stump, soften it up a little. One of the tricks that you want to have is you want to make sure that the bottom of your object is probably a tiny bit darker, just like the bottom line. And again, this is a grounding trick. So right along the bottom here, I'm just going to make sure that's a little darker. I'm going to brighten it just a little along the edge of that shadow right here. And again, it's a push-pull. I'm like, okay, I want to come back again with a blending stump and just refine that just a little bit more. All of the tricks that we're doing are creating a sense of volume with the object so that it looks like it's round and organic. And that's really what you want. So it's that light to dark. Okay. And then we keep going.